Welcome back to this sixth round of the Your Team Number Jeopardy. The category is Canadians for 200. Let's see the clue. This comedian finds the funniest complaints every week, but who could have predicted his complaints about James Duthie? Nobody? It's Logan Saunders.
Who is Logan Saunders? Your mother's a whore, Trebek.
Shock at Trebek. I'm really disappointed we didn't see anyone say suck it Trebek to him.
Yeah. Welcome to Celebrity Jeopardy.
Is this podcast just going to be doing Trebek impressions?
As Will Ferrell, yes, or was it Jimmy Fallon as French Stewart, I believe was one of my favorite impressions from Celebrity Jeopardy, because French Stewart is a loser.
So, as always, you can tweet us using hashtag yatncast or email us at yatncast@gmail.com. And what an episode.
Not as much advertisement plugs as other weeks, but we don't get product placement this week in the form of, say, BMO or Orange Julius or some other product, but the product instead is a whole city.
Yeah, it's back to the idea of the Yukon from last year.
Yes, that is exactly what I was thinking when watching the episode. I said, I don't think there's been this much blatant advertisement for a city or a province or territory to come visit us as much as this round.
It certainly seemed like they were spending the entire tourism budget on trying to get Targ.
Yes, because, definitely last year it was only the Yukon that really stood out as like, okay, guys, we get it. You need people to boost revenue for the territory. We get it. But this is the first time... Oh, there's a spider crawling on my laptop. But this is the cool flying fish. But this is the first time that this season that there was a round where it felt like they really wanted to visit them. So pretty much Yukon and now Sudbury are in that exclusive club of, okay, guys, you can tone it down just a bit.
It's almost like their advertising campaign was, come to Sudbury, we have Alex Trebek.
Yes, and only for a few hours. Before he has to go home and watch Matlock. Oh, man, he was so bored hanging out with John Montgomery. Can you imagine if you're John Montgomery? It's like, I get to hang out with Alex Trebek for the day. And then after the 6th team checks in, you can imagine, just picture Trebek putting a hand on Monty's shoulder and saying, sorry, Monty, as much as I love being here with you and talking to you, I've got some better stuff to do.
Yeah, how disappointed would you be if you were the 7th or 8th place team and then found out you could have met Alex Trebek?
You got ditched by a 75-year-old man who had better things to do than you. If the 75-year-old thinks you're dull, you really need to reevaluate your life.
I think this episode was improved by the presence of Trebek, mainly because he started tearing up, but...
Well, what would have been even better is if not only was Trebek there, but the people from The Social, so that Trebek is forced to interact with the co-host from The Social. Oh man, he would just lose it.
From what I know of Mr. Trebek, I would assume he would not appreciate the harpies from The Social.
No, he definitely would not.
So, previously, 8 teams rediscovered Quebec, where they were tested at almost every type of route marker: Detour, roadblock, double battle, and active route info. Neil and Kristen struggled at the roadblock, and Simi and Opie sank at the double battle, leading them both to take 6-hour penalties. Gino and Jesse won the leg, but it was a keep on racing, so everyone continues.
Without a speed bump. We need to point that out, that because it's a keep on racing leg, for some reason, producers treat this differently from non-elimination legs, and the last place team gets to skip out on the speed bump, and it's pretty much like a non-elimination penalty from the first 4 seasons.
And teams must now fly to beautiful Sudbury, Ontario, via PEI, and find Valet Mining, I would pronounce it Vale, but whatever, to find their next clue, and they have $620 on their card for this leg of the race.
Did you notice that they introduced the $620 when Brian and Cynthia departed at 6:20 p.m.?
Better than them departing at 4:20.
Yeah, and then be given $420. We all know what Mickey and Pete would have done with that money.
And I was pleasantly surprised we got partial departure times.
Yes, and unfortunately, because it's a keep on racing leg, the previous round is completely null and void because it's just equalizer on top of equalizer on top of equalizer, which means hypothermia victims get to be fully recovered.
Yeah, get to sit waiting for a ferry at 8 o'clock.
Yeah, with the sad siren.
And apparently wrestlers are big, dumb, stupid people.
Yeah, well, if you followed Hulk Hogan in the news lately, I would say that that is a strong possibility. Or if you follow what's happened to Razor Ramon over the past several years.
And do you know Jesse get the honour of doing the terrible product placement?
It was subtle this week, though. The BMO card, they didn't verbally introduce it on air.
They didn't commit.
You know what? We skipped over PEI. I think this is probably the last time we're ever going to see PEI on the Amazing Race Canada.
And it's a shame because the PEI leg was actually one of the better ones last season. I quite like the PEI leg.
Yeah, and the Green Gables, what up?
Well, mainly because of Suki and Jinder ownage, but...
Yes, that too.
Domination. So once teams get to the mining place, they find an active route info, which is to descend 1.3 kilometres below the surface and break rocks until they find a nickel pellet in a rock. Only two teams at a time will be permitted to attempt this task.
Did you know, Michael, I hate to interrupt you with this yet again, but Sudbury is the greatest place in the history of the universe, and that you should definitely go there right after you watch the episode. It's the happiest place on earth. Like, all of your dreams are going to come true the second you land on Sudbury soil. The nickely soil.
Listen, I've been to the happiest place on earth. Sudbury is not Disneyland.
Sudbury is Canada's Disneyland, Michael, and I mean, there's clones of Trebek that just wander around town. Everyone's very educated. The 300 lakes. I mean, screw the town that has 200 lakes. 400 is a bit excessive, but man, just imagine all the things you can do with 300 lakes.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they managed to find the one lake that Alex Trebek grew up on.
Yeah, he's never canoed on the other 299 lakes. Or he did once, and then each time he was just as disappointed, and after disembarking he would say, "Oh, this is not the same as Ramsay Lake."
Maybe Trebek was just abandoned as a child and raised by a monster who lives in the lake. That's why he literally was grew up on that lake. Maybe floating.
Yeah, I think the monster is named Winston, if I'm not mistaken. Get it? Because it's the machine that knows all the Jeopardy questions? Okay. I was surprised at the mining task, at the first mining task, that with it being called a valet miner, that there was no valet parking whatsoever. I guess it's only reserved for dimes.
And also, this was a terrible task because why have only two teams compete?
Safety issue?
Yeah, but it's not like it's a face-off. Why actually do this challenge? Why not come up with another mining challenge? Because it separates everyone out after, the massive equalizer.
Like if the face-off was the first team to find a nickel, I guess would have been better. Like, it would be very Mario Party-ish when you think about it. Two versus two, trying to find the nickel first.
That would have been a better idea.
And it, instead of, like in Mario Party, well, the older ones, how it's 10 coins for a win, the winning team just gets 10 additional nickels. And it takes 20 nickels to buy a star, which is $1, a loony for a star.
And there's only one real moment in this, which is Kristen breaking the hammer.
Yeah, and if I was any of her exes, I would be pretty terrified right now. They're probably playing every Canadian breakup song possible at the moment. Probably some Avril Lavigne.
Probably some Avril Lavigne, probably some Nickelback, probably some Mariana Trench, maybe B44 if they're feeling dirty.
Fun fact, Michael. Did you know that the Big Nickel in Sudbury was built after Nickelback became an established band, and they originated from Sudbury, Ontario. That's where the, Chad Kruger and who cares about the other guys in the group, but that's where they all met up and wrote their music, and that's how they became big, was in Sudbury, Ontario, and they got, they were immortalized by the Big Nickel.
Yeah, somehow I don't believe you, mainly because I know the story of how they got their name.
It's funny at my workplace. Whenever the change that I give back is just a nickel, I say that that's how Nickelback got their name too. And a couple of times people have believed me. So
They did get it from the phrase "Here's your nickel back." They thought, Nickelback.
yeah, that's what I always tell customers. I don't care if it's true or not.
They genuinely did, though. That's the thing.
Okay.
So once teams get their nickel pellets, they have to head to the giant nickel to find the next clue.
You know what I loved about it when teams were trying to find the giant nickel, or the big nickel, I guess it's officially called, is that, you know, when somebody spotted on the road, somebody else would say, "Oh, good eye." I'm thinking, it's the big nickel. I'm sure it really stands out visually when you're out driving, searching for it. That'll be like going to Paris and saying, "Oh, you found the Eiffel Tower. Man, eagle eye, eagle eye."
It did make me laugh, that at least. And for the first time this season, we have definitive proof that one of Gino and Jesse actually knows geography. Because Jesse actually knew there was a big nickel in Sudbury.
Well, to be fair, it seemed like a lot of the teams knew about the big nickel because it makes sense when you think about how nearly every team left was either born and or raised or born and or lives in Ontario, and the only other team is Brian and Cynthia that live in eastern Manitoba, and then you have Nick and Sabrina who live next door on the other side in Quebec. So everyone that's in the race lives in close proximities to the big nickel. Like, I'm living here in BC, and we're all, because with this season, for some reason, my parents are paying attention to the season as well, and as well as my sister and other family members, and none of us ever heard of the Big Nickel.
And I'm not Canadian, I had no idea it had a big nickel.
Yeah.
So once they are at the big nickel, they have a choice, which is fast forward or the detour. In the fast forward, teams must travel to Science North and help feed a turtle a portion of mealworms and crickets.
A turtle!
Oh, it's such a cute task. But what they don't know is that they are also going to have to eat a portion of mealworm and crickets themselves to win the fast forward.
It would have been funnier if they had to eat the turtle that they just fed.
Oh. I think they probably would have had some complaints on their hands, especially after last week's "Don't You Know About Veal" complaint.
Yes.
Which is one of my favourite complaints I've ever seen on Targ.
I've been a vegetarian for 7 years now, and I think last year the bar was set pretty high with eating the snake's gallbladder. So I think eating a turtle wouldn't have been too big of a step up from that.
Yeah, maybe eating the turtle you've just helped feed, and also, you know, we're trying to save it. That's the whole point of the task. So maybe saying, "Oh yeah, you know that turtle you've just fed? Yeah, it's going on the barbecue now." That would be a little bit off.
Oh no, it's up to the team. They get to play the role of the emperor from Gladiator. It's up to Gino and Jesse whether or not the turtle lives or dies for the sake of their fast forward. And I think Gino and Jesse, the Volta Mussolinis, have such a low moral compass that they probably would have ate the turtle.
Yeah, they would have said, "Can we kill all the turtles?"
Yes, just make them all extinct in all of Sudbury. Just like their mining industry in 15 years.
And the detour is a choice between analyse and synchronise. And in synchronise, teams must learn and perform a synchronised swim routine to receive their next clue. And in analyse, teams must take part in a CSI simulation and correctly map 10 pieces of evidence to receive the next clue. And there are 4 stations at each detour.
To go back to the nickel task, I love the guy who handed out clues there because he sounded really sarcastic. Like whenever a team found a nickel, he would always say, "You got it," as if he was mocking them. Yes, you got it. You found 5 cents. You can't even buy a 5-cent candy anymore because now it's inflated up to 25 cents. They're quarter candies. True story. And when teams were going down the elevator, I had flashbacks to the Wonka tunnel from the 70s version of Willy Wonka, also known as the good version.
The Gene Wilder version.
Yes. And they should have had Gene Wilder in the elevator there and projected images on the wall trying to freak out the teams as much as possible.
Yeah, I think Kristen was freaked out enough.
Yes. Deep down. Deep down.
And ironically, Gino did say to Jesse before they found out they had to eat their own set of bugs, dare you to eat that? Fail.
Yes. Bozos.
Yeah. And in a result that shocks no one, Gino and Jesse won the fast forward and can proceed directly to the pit stop.
I think Gino got the best side of that fast forward. At first, he didn't have to eat anything. He got the role of feeding the turtle for the good first chunk of it, and then he just ate the rest of the worms in 0.2 seconds. So
Gino just shoveled the entire thing in his mouth.
Jesse wasn't too sharp. If only Joe Rogan was there, especially with John Montgomery eating the worm as well. There should have been a moment where John Montgomery should have said on camera, "There's one thing you gotta know about me, Joe Rogan. I eat worms."
Yeah, if Joe Rogan was there, it'd probably be combined with having to eat leeches or have your entire body shaved or being tear gassed.
And it would have been a brilliant Amazing Race crossover because they could have brought Alan Wu, who appeared as a contestant on Fear Factor like 10 years ago, which started his career in the first place. It could have been Amazing Race Canada with Joe Rogan and Alan Wu all in the same womb. Oh, man. That would have been something.
And Wu would have been well up for it as well, knowing Wu.
Yeah, he would have challenged Joe Rogan. He's like, "You want to do the shot glass drink that made me vomit 10 years ago and nearly made you vomit even though you didn't drink any of it? It was just from watching us drink it? Well, it's your turn, buddy. It's your turn, Joe."
Step up.
Get it? Because Joe Rogan is really short?
And Kristen is very, very, very loud.
Too loud to be a police officer.
And everyone tries to pick analyse. Awkward.
It's a limited stations detour, guys.
Yeah, if you know you're in, like, 6th or lower, you probably should try synchronise first.
And John Montgomery apparently has an interest in synchronized swimming. The first person to express an interest in synchronized swimming in probably 15 to 20 years, because I know for a fact that nobody pays attention to that in the Olympics. I cannot think of a single obscure athlete, even as obscure as the ones we see in Amazing Race Canada, and not a single synchronized swimming name pops up.
And we actually got confirmation of the story that he told originally when he was appointed as host of Talk about his maple leaf tattoo on his chest.
Oh.
I believe the story was he's that proud of a Canadian that for his 18th birthday, him and his mother got matching maple leaf tattoos.
Oh, this brings up a hilarious thing that somebody said online. Somebody was super duper offended by the Amazing Race Canada this week because they showed the Canadian flag, but it was sideways. Just imagine, like, if you live in Belgium, you would probably be super offended that it's like, oh, well, it's just the German flag, but on its side.
You always have a lot of fun for weird complaints.
And the fun is definitely not going to stop, because that was the first complaint I saw, was the one about the sideways Canadian flag. So, and I've already found 30 other complaints, and that's just in the span of a day. So it's still going to be a pretty good week.
Is anything going to touch the ranty Quebecois man from last week, though? Let's be honest.
No, nothing will touch the kayak referee, no. Not even close.
Not even for millions of dollars?
I will sue you for millions of dollars, Michael.
I know, not a fictional currency.
You better be willing to give up all the big nickels you got.
So when Brent and Sean get to analyse, they decide, we can't do this, we'll switch to synchronise. And Nick and Sabrina beat out Simi and Opie for the last station, forcing them also to go to synchronise.
Two of the teams that desperately needed to be at the analyze side of the detour.
Not that it mattered much in the end anyway, but...
No. It's even funnier that, with knowing that it's going to be synchronized swimming, and Opie still wants to go over to the synchronized swimming to check it out.
To check if it's in the shallow end.
Oh, I can't swim.
And Kristen was actually pretty funny this week.
She was hilarious. She probably outdid Nick and Sabrina in terms of comedy, which hasn't happened in any of the previous 5 episodes. Nick and Sabrina have always been number one.
Mainly because, as we will get into later, Nick and Sabrina weren't really shown. I don't know what on earth happened with the editing this week, but Nick and Sabrina were shown probably least out of every team, including Simi and Opie.
Dujon and Leilani didn't get a whole lot of airtime either. I think they got even less airtime.
Yeah, it really confused me, because, as you well know, I did go into the episode accidentally knowing that Nick and Sabrina went, but I was just sort of looking out for any sort of real reason, and there wasn't really a reason.
I wrote that down too, thinking, this is weird. Nick and Sabrina haven't been mentioned until they got to the analyzed part of the detour, which was about, I guess, halfway into the episode. And I'm thinking, this is the very first time all season long that they've been the under-the-radar team. But then as soon as they talked about their age gap, then I realized, oh crap, production doesn't want, or rather the editors don't want to crap all over them during their elimination round. So by showing zero negative footage, then that means they get pretty much zero footage overall for the most part.
And also that age gap thing was from leg 1, for the record.
Same audio clip, of course. Just like how they used there was this, I think it's either the Thailand or Vietnam soundtrack that they used in the earlier seasons. I noticed that was used right when Monty was introducing the analyzed side of the detour. I thought, I don't think Sudbury is in Asia.
Not yet. Give it time.
I mean, it's that good of a city that it's technically located in all 7 continents in the world.
And Kristen's great quote from the analyzed detour was, "Now I know why people are dead here."
Yeah, I mean, 4 people were killed in such a small area. So, I mean, Sudbury, as we all read in the article posted online through the Sudbury City newspaper, they threw tens of thousands of dollars into promoting themselves this week. And they're really promoting themselves as the new murder capital of Canada. So Winnipeg, put your hands down. It's no longer your jam anymore.
Tens of thousands of dollars?
Yes.
They even hosted a viewing of it.
Yes, a 2-hour viewing party in Sudbury just to further reinforce that this is like it's pretty much like their last chance to be popular amongst Canadians.
They wanted to raise awareness of the city to outsiders, including those who may be considering travelling, studying, or relocating to Greater Sudbury.
Yeah. What's funny, too, is that... Oh, I just had let me think. Give me 1 second. Jeopardy theme. Cue the Jeopardy theme. That's enough. It's just hilarious because if they could be exactly like the kayak guy from last week, where if nobody visits Sudbury as a result of all the tens of thousands of dollars they put into tourism, will they suddenly sue Amazing Race Canada for millions of dollars as well for not successfully bringing tourists in? Just like how in the previous round that Amazing Race Canada didn't bring enough people in to buy new kayaks.
So Nick and Matt are the first to leave analysed, with Brian and Cynthia in 3rd place, I suppose. Brent and Sean leave synchronised in 4th. Simi and Opie leave analysed in 5th. Neil and Kristen were 6th. Dujon and Leilani in 7th. And Nick and Sabrina in last. And teams must now drive to the Sudbury Outpatient Centre and search for their next clue.
Yeah, I guess we have to talk about Brian and Cynthia failing at their own occupation at the detour. Which, I don't know if they were really CSI people.
Yeah, not really.
Yeah, so I don't really consider it quote-unquote five-holing or whatever lame term we have for people that finish, or people that fail tasks that are somewhat connected to their profession on Amazing Race Canada. So I feel like editors really go out of their way to be like, oh, this is somewhat with what they do. Isn't it hilarious that they sucked at it? Then this task must be really hard.
I mean, Nick's wasn't really a traditional five-hole because he's a goalkeeper. He's not going to be doing these skills.
And he's not going to be blindfolded.
The only real five-hole is the actual five-hole from last year.
Yeah.
Because Nat and Meg should have been able to do everything there.
You know what, though? With Nick, even though he had the blindfold on during the soccer task, he really should have just let his heart guide him to the net. He should have let his heart guide him to the net. That's what Sabrina's trying to teach him, and hopefully one day, maybe with age, once Sabrina is in her 40s and he's still in his 30s, he'll finally learn this lesson.
So sweet. So once teams get to the outpatient centre, it's a roadblock, which is who has heart. In this roadblock, one team member must learn and correctly perform CPR on a dummy for 2 minutes. If the pulse of the dummy starts up again, they receive their next clue. And it was Matt, Cynthia, Sean, Simi, Kristen, Nick, and Leilani doing this roadblock.
Clearly, for the dummy, his heart didn't guide him, because he died numerous times during this task, so he really ignored Nick and Sabrina's advice.
Also, Nick, off of Matt's, is a CPR instructor.
And he didn't do this task. Imagine if he did this task and he failed, then that would be pretty embarrassing.
Yeah, then that would be a 5-hole.
He's probably glad that he didn't do it.
Because Cynthia used to be a paramedic.
You know what Matt should have done is, for the first attempt, knowing that, Gino and Jesse are going to finish first and that he's in a comfortable second or third place position, for the first attempt, he should have pulled out a bunch of wrestling moves. Like, he should have gotten on top of one of the carts and just did like a flying elbow smash on top of the dummy and like started punching it in the face and going in for the pin. Pile driving it, just practicing every wrestling move he has in his repertoire on the dummy.
I think they were probably told not to try and break the dummy, because it's probably quite expensive, let's be honest.
Yeah, plus the dummy was probably, it probably hasn't eaten for quite a while. In fact, it probably ate less food than that turtle did, because that turtle was sure hesitant to eat those worms. So I think the turtle and the dummy both have food eating disorders.
And according to Nick, Matt kind of looks like Dr. Evil right now.
And he does. They really love their pop culture references. I knew I would like them ever since they referenced the Street Fighter the movie, which I've seen a few times just because of how terrible it is, and some of those clips that I love reusing for my blog. So they won me there. But what's disappointed me is that the one reference they haven't made yet is one in regards to Street Fighter, the movie, the game, for the Sega Saturn. And Raul Julia was already dead right before the game was about to be released, so they had to replace his voice acting for M. Bison. Game over!
And as we well know, Sean gets sick when he overexerts.
I wish he threw up on the dummy.
Yeah, I was hoping for that as well, because I thought that was what they might have been leading to.
And then the medics just have to throw the dummy off the table, and then they have to put Sean on his back and do compressions on him, and he just keeps vomiting. We're losing him!
So it's Nick and Matt leaving the roadblock in second, Brian and Cynthia in third, Brent and Sean in fourth, Simi and Opie in fifth, Neil and Kristen in sixth, Jisean and Leilani in seventh, and Nick and Sabrina in last after 9 attempts. And teams must now head to the pit stop, which is the Bell Park Gazebo. For anyone who didn't win the fast forward, they've got to canoe across the lake to get there. The last team to check in here may be eliminated.
If Cammy and Carly had to go to this pit stop, they probably would have just swam across and completely avoided the convenience of the canoe.
Yeah, they would have waded.
And then Montgomery said, "Oh, all the other teams just took the canoe and just did this quick diagonal line across to the pit stop here. You swam across all the way around the island before you came in."
And after last week's laughable prize, Gino and Jesse actually win a decent one this time, which is 2 tickets to any of Air Canada's destinations in California, which I'm assuming is going to just be LA, and a year of petrol.
Maybe they're going to go to San Diego and jump over the border.
Yeah, they probably do fly to San Diego and San Fran, actually. I'm probably just being a little bit mean there, but...
Yeah. San Diego, the second largest city. San Diego, the 8th largest city in the country. Save our Colts. Save our Bolts.
San Diego, also a very nice city, having been there.
Yeah. Oh, John Oliver clips always amuse me.
And Nick and Matt finally broke their third place curse and got second this week. It was Brandon and Cynthia in third, Brent and Sean in fourth. And also, for more information on how to perform CPR, hit up the CTV website.
Yes, an actual advertisement for people to learn CPR in Sudbury.
Mainly because they'd seen such laughable attempts at CPR in the roadblock.
I do have a theory as to why teams had to do CPR right before the pit stop. Because if you know Alex Trebek, he's had a couple of mild heart attacks in the past 10 years. And I think because he's 75, he's very much at risk. I think teams had to do CPR right before the pit stop just in case something would happen to him. You need all the help you can get. You need all hands on deck.
But when I was watching Nick do that roadblock, I was just going, slow down, you're going too quick.
It's the passionate Italian in him. You just compress, and just open. Just be like, it's what is it, shaking baby syndrome or whatever it is, where it's just like, no, here, that's just a bit extreme. Don't be so intense.
I was just going, slow down, it's supposed to be 2 beats a second. And Simeon Opie managed to make Trebek cry in 5th place.
Yeah, what jerks. Oh no, you mean, it was a happy cry for Trebek. He was touched and moved.
And Neil and Kristen were 6th. Dijon and Leilani were 7th and Trebekless.
Yes, Trebek left early. Should we talk about that? He just had after he cried with Simeon Opie at the pit stop, he just didn't care to talk to anybody else. Did he stick around for Neil and Kristen?
He stuck around for Neil and Kristen. It was the first 6 teams.
Yeah, it's funny that it's like, Simeon Opie, I'm touched by your guys' relationship and I'm tearing up, and then Neil and Kristen come along and he couldn't care less about them. He said, screw you guys. What is screw you guys?
Neil and Kristen,
Clearly Trebek is not a sports Jeopardy fan. And then he just goes home because the town of Sudbury blew their entire city budget for the year on promoting themselves and could only afford Trebek for about 3 hours' time.
It would be interesting to see what time Dijon and Leilani did check in.
Or maybe Trebek did have to go home early just to watch reruns of Matlock. I don't know. I don't know what kind of condition he's in right now.
Yeah, because if it was actually him just having to go home at like 5 o'clock for his evening meal, then that is hilarious.
Yes.
And our dear Nick and Sabrina are eliminated in 8th place.
Yeah, if only Nick at the CPR task could just remember to compress and help try to revive somebody to the pace of the Bee Gees' Staying Alive. That's what they teach you in all the CPR courses. That's what I learned from The Office.
Yeah, it genuinely is what they teach you in CPR courses, is do the Bee Gees Staying Alive. For once, Logan is not lying.
Maybe the Bee Gees just weren't big in Italy. And none of their songs were translated into French, Spanish, or Italian.
So, I don't think it's any shock that Nick and Sabrina have gone, but it is a massive loss for the season.
What's shocking is that this round had a canoe task and a swimming task, and neither of those were relevant factors in Nick and Sabrina's elimination this leg. They were pretty much at the bottom right from the time they got to the the Valley Mine, and I think they were were they in the second to last group? Because that's what annoyed me too, is that we really didn't get a good grasp on who was paired up with who for the mine task.
I think they might have been I think they might have got there last, actually.
Oh, they were in the last group? So who were they with then at the end? Was it just Dijon, Leilani, and Nick and Sabrina going last? Because if that's the case, then this may have been a really short leg, which I think it was, because everybody checked in during the day, wasn't it? And then Nick and Sabrina were sort of like late evening-ish?
Yeah, Nick and Sabrina didn't check in that late. It certainly wasn't that dark in the pictures I've seen, but... Because
the round started at, 10 a.m. during the day was when the mine opened up. So this would have been early May, so we're probably looking at I guess 8 or 9 hours later when they checked in.
Yeah, if that. So it was a really short round, and also I think it was Dijon and Leilani that Nick and Sabrina were with in that queue, so that's probably what screwed both of those teams.
Because nobody really took over another team during this leg, if I'm not mistaken.
No, I know that everyone's expecting me to be hard on this leg because of Nick and Sabrina going home and them being basically the stars of the season. And it's not just that, it's the fact that there were just some weird decisions, like the editing, like the fact we didn't see Nick and Sabrina basically for half of the episode that they got eliminated in.
Yeah, actually when we've been talking during this podcast, I noticed that I did actually write down on the second page of my notes for the episode, just wrote down Nick and Sabrina and then : invisible. So even I was noticing just how absent they were, because that's how big of characters they've been for the first 5 episodes. They were really driving the season. That's no joke. About 80% of the opinions in the Funniest Complaints blog, and just 80% of the opinions I think about this season in general, whenever somebody brings up a specific team, has been about Nick and Sabrina, whether it be positive or negative. So they definitely were in the driver's seat in terms of airtime.
Logan's complaint blog will be a much worse place because of Nick and Sabrina going home.
Yes, there really isn't any talk about Nick and Sabrina for this week, so it's just, I'm curious where this season is going to go now, because they delivered a ton of comedic value. Like, people, I think we're really going to, I really noticed it this week, where it was Kristen sort of taking over with annoying Brian and Cynthia at the CSI task, and then everything else was just OP rehashing how he can't swim, which is it's getting funny because of how much the editors beat us over the head with that fact, where it's just OP having that same trademarked surprised look on his face saying, "Oh, I can't swim. I'm not comfortable with this."
And also, who's actually going to be a fun, satisfying winner now? I know it's really depressingly early for me to say that, but Nick and Sabrina would have been an amazing winners, and exactly what Tark needed as a winner.
Yes, but it was very apparent early on that wasn't going to happen, especially with their edit.
In the same way that Amazing Race US needed Flo to be the first female winner, I think Tark needed Sabrina to be the first female winner.
Yes, I think that's a very good point, because when you think about the winners so far in Amazing Race Canada, yes, I wanted the Tims to win over the almost everybody in that cast, but nobody in that cast really stood out to me in the first season. And then the second season, Suki and Ginger, all of us wanted to have them win by a mile, and that would have been an amazing victory for the franchise.
Especially over Natalie and Megan.
Yes, and then this season, Nick and Sabrina could have just ridden the bottom of the pack all the way through and then have some surprise, crazy stroke of luck at the end, but when they finished as poorly as they did in some of those rounds, I think it was a really, really big order to have for them.
I didn't expect it to happen, but it is the sort of thing that Tark needed as a first female winner. Would have been Sabrina being the first female to win Amazing Race Canada. Because you can imagine, about the last 4 rounds, her just getting confessionals saying, "I'm the last woman left, what the hell?" I am the last woman standing.
That would have been pretty funny. Especially, actually, when you think about it, because we've had the absolute maximum number of females that could be eliminated by this point in the season. Like, how many women are left? Is it just Kristen, Simi, and Leilani? Are those the only 3? I guess those would be the only 3, eh?
Well, it's Leilani...
Oh, Cynthia.
Kristen,
oh, my goodness.
Cynthia and Simi, yeah.
Do not read into the delay of me not bringing up Cynthia. Maybe it's because Brian keeps calling her Chewbacca, and I don't know what gender Chewbaccas are assigned. I don't really pay attention to Star Wars.
Basically, Logan's saying that Cynthia isn't a lady.
Oh, now you're just twisting my words, Michael.
Why would I ever twist your words when we have Brian and Cynthia favoriting their own tweets?
They favorite their own tweets, they milk their own bowls, they really do their own handiwork.
Brian and Cynthia do need to stay in the season as long as is physically possible, though, now, for pure hilarity reasons.
I think they will be taking over the comedic reins, because the thing with Brian and Cynthia is that I know with some of the viewers that I was surprised how many people want Brian and Cynthia to go next, because they view them as a quote-unquote non-family friendly team and view them as being crude. But, that sense of humor is just rare to find on these types of competitive reality shows, so that's what makes it that much funnier, especially with our sense of humor as well. So,
hey, casual fans, if you really want to see a season without hilarious people, you don't. You do not want to see a season full of game bots, because that will be the season that you'll go, "Oh my god, I love these winners," but it is so boring.
So you're saying that a season like that would be 11 teams from Sudbury?
Yeah, pretty much.
It would be the Sudbury of casting.
You do not want to see that sort of a race, and I do not want to see that sort of a race, because I'll have to podcast about that sort of a race, and it will just be me whining for 12 weeks.
Did you appreciate Cynthia and Brian's little game of preserving their lie about being cops, sort of like Jeff Kent preserving that he's an ex-professional baseball player.
I am warning you now. Brian's wink will become a recurring screen cap in our videos. I love Brian's wink, and I will find every single use for it.
What was the exact quote that they had?
I can't even remember. I didn't even write down the quote because I was too busy making sure I remembered to screen cap his wink. Because I love it. It's just going to have so many uses.
Or just how they had to try and play dumb. Like, what the thing is with being cops is that, nobody cares whether you're cops or not. On The Amazing Race, anyway.
It's not like you're former federal agents and saying you're kindergarten teachers like Kerry and Stacey from Amazing Race 20. Yeah, being police officers is maybe a target, but only if people don't respect the police. You're more likely to get alliances out of telling people you're police officers.
Well, look at who was it? There was a team in Amazing Race 3, Andre and Damon, where one was a firefighter, then one a police officer. And absolutely no one respected them. Even though I personally love them and love referencing them, nobody respected them by the 4th or 5th round when they started paying the leading teams to let them follow them to each route marker and then try to sneak away with the first place finish at the end of the leg.
Yeah, I do love people who go into Amazing Race and just say, we're not going to tell people we're going to say we're kindergarten teachers or that sort of thing. Because people must think that Nick and Matt are lying when Nick says, oh yeah, I'm a school teacher. They're like, yeah, whatever. We'll find out after the season.
I work as a bartender, but really, I'm a real estate agent.
It's like no one is threatened by a real estate agent.
They're convincing, we're conniving. Oh man, so many qualities that come with being a real estate agent are viewed as so deceitful and so strategic and so brilliant. Did you know that the gazebo was sponsored for this leg, the pit stop?
The Bell Park?
Yeah, the Bell Park. Apparently Bell, the company which owns the distribution for the Amazing Race Canada, owns a gazebo in Sudbury. Or if that name is just completely coincidental.
Yeah, it's probably just coincidental.
But I'm sure that's why they picked the park, though. They're probably thinking it's probably some rep at Bell Media looking at places they can go to in Sudbury after sitting on a pile of $70,000 that the city tourism board presented to him. He's thinking, hey, let's have a pit stop at a place called Bell Park. It'll be great to promote the Bell Media brand globally.
I know full well that they are not averse to that sort of thing, but I don't think it was deliberate.
It'd be funnier if it was.
It would be funnier if it was, yeah.
Free advertising, something that the Sudbury Tourism Board clearly doesn't know the definition of.
So, next time, it looks like another episode that I'm going to be whining about. Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, trampolines, Brian and Cynthia fighting, and a detour choice of hoops or teepees.
You know what? This is why I don't like Canadian lakes, because this week with Sudbury, it was like the mine and the Big Nickel was fine, but then we get these lame locations that are just generic universities and campuses and just canoeing across any old lake, which, I mean, that's the thing that bugs me with Amazing Race Canada at times, is that when you do it at generic places like a university or a research center that exists in any town ever, then it's almost as if you're promoting local towns to have their own version of Amazing Race that they can produce cheaply as well, as opposed to the American version where they intentionally go to route markers that you can't replicate here because that's what makes the race amazing. But yet here in Canada, it's like, oh, go to this campus, now go to this university, now go to this research center, now go to this synchronized swimming pool that has several students from another university. And you know what? You guys can replicate this in your own homemade versions, wherever you may be. It's not amazing.
Yeah, even the mine was like, yay, it's a good location, but what a task.
It should have been like the Amazing Race 10 with the mines, where they incorporated crazy bikes that they had to pedal back and forth a great distance, and teams there were completely exhausted.
Yeah, if you're going to do that sort of task, at least don't separate the teams out. I know it was necessary because of health and safety, but don't do that. Don't have a task like that. Make up a roadblock or something. Make it a 2 roadblock leg for all I care.
A nickel block.
Then you can have 4 different people searching through the piles.
Exactly. And then everyone else just feels like a loser because they don't get to go over a kilometer into the heart of Sudbury and create their own version of Metropolis, the 1920s German film.
Thankfully, this is the last Canada leg for a bit next week.
Yes, because we already have it officially confirmed, even before the season started, that we're going to India.
Yeah, I believe India is after Saskatoon, but I'm not 100% on that.
Yeah, I think that's a good chance too.
I know India's in that pair of legs, but I don't know whether it's India first or it's another country first.
That's really got to screw up with people like Kristen who just suffered through hypothermia, and then you've got to go to a miserable place like Saskatoon, and then you go to India that's going to be 50 degrees Celsius there.
Yeah, India had a heat wave when they were filming there. This could only go well for teams like Neil and Kristen.
If only there was a Nunavut team on this season.
So, we did have a couple of listener questions.
What?
So, Chris Cheng wanted to know, is there no speed bump for last place finishes in non-elimination legs in the Canadian version?
Already answered it.
Yeah, there is, but not on a keep on racing leg, just like on the American ones.
Which annoys me greatly.
And Patricia wants to know, how long did it actually take Brent and Sean to do the swimming competition?
I'm going to guess about an hour. Yeah, there was actually an additional unearned task where they had to sort all of the rainbow caps.
Yeah, fact.
And no, I didn't find it hilarious that they had to do synchronized swimming with a bunch of women. Tee-hee-hee, gender roles reversed. So hilarious.
Logan's social justice warrior coming out here. So, any final thoughts about this episode?
I would say it's the weakest of the season, and it's accompanied by a devastating elimination, but one that probably could have happened in any of the past 4 episodes, or past 4 eliminations.
The season is going to be worse because of their presence not being there.
It's going to be, yeah, I'm curious to see if the entertainment value will keep up, because if I had to rank like the top 5 or 6 laugh out loud moments so far, I think Nick and Sabrina occupy every single spot in there except maybe one.
And would the one be the cargo net by any chance?
I was thinking it would be something that would involve Brian and Cynthia that doesn't come straight to mind. But the cargo net might slip in there, yes.
On that note, I love that Brian managed to pick out that it was Cynthia's face that Matt was doing Ghost with a couple of weeks ago. I don't know whether I mentioned that on the podcast or not, but I didn't even tweet it at Brian and Cynthia. But Brian found it out of the blue and managed to correctly pick that it was Cynthia on the cargo net, which is awesome.
Which makes sense because Brian and Cynthia, Nick and Matt have been, through 6 episodes, we really haven't had 2 teams that are racing this close together for this long.
Yeah, at the halfway point last season, Suki and Jinder were in the full throes of being awesome. And we've basically lost our surrogate Suki and Jinder now. So we need someone to take over it and be hilarious next week. And then probably get cruelly eliminated at Final Four, but
Predictions?
I think we've got to see Simi and Opie go next week.
I am amazed with how, even 6 episodes in, their edit has still been really small. Like with the Quebec episode, it was the first confessional they had in 3 episodes. And they still finished in dead last like we all expected them to. And then this week, they just get an itty-bitty more airtime, but it's still just, Opie can't swim. And then they just managed to get a miracle with the CSI task, and then Simi just does well with the CPR task, and suddenly, boom, they barely survive this week. But I think next week that, just with having no edit besides, Opie can't swim, that it's got to come to an end. And I can't wait for Opie to be bouncing around on the trampoline. That's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, that is going to be really screen grabbable, but I just don't understand how they will survive again, honestly.
You know what we really need for the Saskatoon leg is to have a cameo by Shala and Nabila and see how they would do on the trampolines.
Are we just going to suggest Shala and Nabila doing every task this season now? This is 3 weeks on the trot.
What's terrible about the Amazing Race Canada production team is that they hired Devin Soltendijk, who was a great Much Music VJ back in the day, but he's just turned into a lame guy now, and he does all the tasks along with John Montgomery, and while they're filming. They upload it as extra scenes online, and he just does them like a lame person would. But imagine if you just replaced Devin Solndeek with Charlotte Navila touring around with John Montgomery, and you'd have clips that would be 10 times more entertaining. Like, for instance, last week, Devin Solndeek did the ride at part of the Detour where he was on the horse. Could you imagine Sharla, who has the term Charlie Horse nicknamed after her, had to ride an actual horse? There was no way that would have ended well. Because Devin Solndeek actually completed that task. There is no way that Shala would have been able to do that.
I hate to break it to you, Logan, but I'm not sure that people love Shala and Navila as much as we do. I'm not sure they're as much of a punchline as with everyone else as they are with us, as being maybe the most obvious first boot of all time.
Maybe everyone else just suffers from chlorine tightness.
Also, whilst I remember, I've just done the pool update.
Am I not last anymore?
No, you're still last. In first place is still Michelle with 43 points, then Eamon with 41, me with 38, and then you with 36.
But I thought I was better, but maybe you guys are better because you know stuff. I feel bad for the people at the pit stop there, the orchestra. None of them, they may or may not have been overshadowed by Alex Trebek.
Yeah.
In fact, what they should have done is not only have the orchestra people there, but you know those random Olympians we see from the first 2 seasons that give teams clues, like the speed skater at the Richmond Ice Rink in season 1, and then the woman who was in the season premiere of season 2 on the zipline. Yeah, they should have had those people as well at the pit stop with Alex Trebek, and then teams just go in there and they don't even acknowledge them. They just fawn over Trebek.
Yeah, they didn't really use Alex Trebek that well either.
No, Trebek was just part of the tourism thing where he said, "Oh, this is where I grew up. This is my lake. I had lots of romantic canoe trips across the lake."
They didn't even have Monty do any puns or anything.
No, even the only pun left in there was Sean saying he was left in jeopardy, but that was like the worst pun possible. Like, I would have at least, like, if I see Alex Trebek and I'm at the pit stop, I would have said the episode title. I would have said, "Oh, who is Alex Trebek?" And because I would just be phrasing everything in the form of a question, just until Trebek would be pissed off.
All they had to do was put in the pit stop clue. Sudbury's most famous resident. Here's a clue. This game show host, blah, blah, blah. And then people could have just run up and gone, "Who's Alex Trebek?"
Yes. That's exactly what they could have done. Like, there were so many better ways to play the Alex Trebek appearance. And they did nothing with it. It's just him crying over seeing Opie's Bond, which, I mean, is good, I guess, but, I mean, there was nothing funny. There was a clip online, an extra scene, where he makes fun of Nick and Matt's paddling for a good minute or so. Yes, he just makes fun of their paddling, saying, "Oh, I saw you guys paddling. You went the wrong way for the most of it. It's like you got." Or what was this? I know what he was saying. So he's like, "It's like you guys were in an action film being chased with the way you were paddling. So you guys were just all over the place." And then Nick said, "Man, I can't believe we just got made fun of by Alex Trebek." Like, that would have been a great thing to include in the episode.
And, even more depressingly for you next week, you've got to watch a program with James Duthie.
Oh, next week, after the Saskatoon Lake airs, there will be the first reunion show of the season, the mid-season recap called After the Race, even though it's midway through, with James Duthie and 6 eliminated teams, we presume.
At least 5 eliminated teams is the official word.
Yes, but there's going to be one more next week. They're not going to use up their other non-elimination leg next week. That'd be weird.
I hate to go all history on your ass, but the earliest a final non-elimination leg has been used is 8, I believe.
But how many non-eliminations were there? And that was with, 4 non-eliminations. With this season, though, there's only 2.
It was with 2 non-eliminations in the season. They used their last one at 8. They used 1 at 9, 1 at 8.
When I say that, that'd be weird if they do that, and your response is, well, they did this in the Israeli version, it doesn't exactly help.
Yeah, you got a point there. The record for an English language version is 7, I think.
I also think that Siminopi will be gone next week, and I'm still convinced that the winner's edit belongs to Dijon and Leilani. I didn't even flinch when they were in dead last with a few minutes left to go in the episode, because I think their winner story is that 3-dimensional.
Can we basically rule out Gino and Jesse yet?
They still have their rivalry with Brett and Sean. Brett and Sean still have their rivalry with them, and then Brian and Cynthia have a lot of bonds to the other team, so I pretty much am expecting those 4 teams to be the final 4, and that these next couple of weeks will just to be weeding out the 2 father-daughter teams, and then whichever other team I forgot to mention. I think the next 2 rounds, or the next 2 eliminations, both father-daughter teams will be going down.
I feel like Gino and Jesse are going to get U-turned out of the race. They're setting that up now.
I think that I could see them being eliminated in, like, India, because we know Gino is good at geography, but just not international geography. And I could see them just being completely off their game in India when they have to do real racing, unlike this Sudbury leg, where it was, do the Sudbury Amazing Race instead of actual Amazing Race.
I just feel like, especially with this week, they're setting it up that someone's going to try and U-turn Gino and Jesse out of the race, and it's probably going to be successful. They're not getting the Amy and Maya edit of, oh, they look so positive, we're so jealous of them. They got I think it was Nick and Matt, got the confessional of it, can't these guys ever be in the back of the pack? Which just says to me they are going to get eliminated.
Well, even with, I think Brian and Cynthia said, oh, isn't their luck going to run out? So I think you're right. I think we can say, I changed my mind, we can say that Gino and Jesse are not going to win the season based on the edit alone. But they could win a couple more legs in the process and rack up prizes that hopefully are as lame as travel to a Canadian destination.
Yeah, because as you might remember, I did promise Michelle before the season that if Gino and Jesse win, we have to try and pursue them for an interview.
And that's a promise nobody wants you to live up to.
Exactly. Can you imagine me having to edit that interview, is all I have to say.
So, Volta Mussolini's, tell us about your time on the race.
Yeah, I didn't actually say that I would be doing that interview. I would sub it off to one of you guys.
So I have to talk to the Volta Mussolinis?
Yeah, I wouldn't be going anywhere near them.
So do I have to compliment them too and say, hey Jesse, or hey Gino, you had a really good eye to spot the big nickel. Man, that was a real needle in the haystack, wasn't it, buddy?
In a way, I just want you to do a really sarcastic interview with them. Oh, well done. Well done for spotting the big nickel.
I can be as sarcastic as the guy in the mine. You got it.
Well done, you. So, anything else to add?
I think we covered it all. Very sad to see Nick and Sabrina go, and well, I'm curious to see who can pick up the slack because we're only at the halfway point. So it'd be sad if we're suddenly in for a weak second half.
Yeah. Thank you very much for joining us. We'll be back next week for another Amazing Race Canada episode. If you enjoyed the show, and even if you didn't, please subscribe to us on iTunes and give us a like on the YouTube video. And if you want to see what we're rambling about this week, our Twitters are in the descriptions everywhere. And if you missed our interview with Mike and Michelle from Amazing Race 26, that's also available on the iTunes feed for you to listen to now. Thank you again.
Who is hashtag Supikuwaki? What is hashtag 250? And what is hashtag yatncast? And what is peace?
Where is A-Town?